Alright. Oh, hey guys. Sorry, I was just checking out YouTube again, trying to learn how to block this time because, look, after the Manifesto today, I think I'm going to need it. We're going to be talking about the Defense Manifesto, part 2 of 3 parts of Manifestos, coming to us about massive balance passes on Path of Exile 3.16 with the Scourge update. Now, we're going to jump right into it. The first thing I'm going to say, though, is definitely stick through this whole video. There's a ton of information here. Some pretty good and some really questionable. I think the best word for me to describe it is I'm pretty reserved about some of the changes that are going to be coming through. I'm not sure how they're really going to function in the actual gameplay. That being said, I have like 60% faith that GGG will pull off something pretty good here and the defenses will feel a lot better. But there's some big, let's say, yeah, no, I'm going to call them nerfs to some other areas. So we're going to check that out. So I'm just going to jump right into the problems and then into the goals here as well. Basically, through all of this, GGG is just saying they really want to buff armor evasion and energy shield and fine-tune some of the other defensive mechanics that are kind of less investment. So first of all, overarching problem. Dodge and blind provide more mitigation for fewer passive points and item slots than any other defense type. Attack dodge does this in a form that is almost identical to evasion, but is far more efficient. So the overarching goal for this problem is to remove dodge entirely and review certain powerful mechanics like blind and fortify for non-melee characters. Improve almost every other scalable defense type significantly to make them more powerful. This includes armor, evasion, energy shield recovery, and spell block. So another problem is armor as a core stat doesn't provide sufficient defense with low to medium investment. Armor characters instead rely on a number of other mechanics to provide them with defense against physical damage that armor is meant to provide. So the solution is to improve the armor formula so that armor is more powerful, providing better mitigation across the board and increase the strength of modifiers on items that add base local armor. So this is a massive balance pass to armor. Now, I'm not going to read entirely the specifics, but basically, the formula is changing. I'm just going to read this line here. A rule of thumb with the new armor formula is that if you want to get 50% mitigation against a physical damage hit, you need 5 times the damage as armor, where previously it required 10 times the damage. So as an example, if you want to mitigate 5,000 damage down to 2,500, so 50%, you need 50,000 armor to do this. You used to need 50,000 armor. Now you only need 25,000 armor. So yeah, armor's getting pretty buffed, basically. Not in the values that you're going to be obtaining on your character, but in how much those values are going to be mitigating. In fact, in some cases, I would say that characters are actually going to be in lower armor, but we'll talk about that very soon. Alright, another problem. Evasion doesn't provide sufficient defense. Evasive characters instead rely on the acrobatics and phase acrobatics keystones to provide attack and spell mitigation. So the solution, remove attack dodge entirely. So first of all, we're removing attack dodge. Substantially buff evasion so that it is a good option to make sure it is easily available on items. So substantially buffing evasion basically is, it's kind of like a 50% buff or 100% buff type of thing. So let's just take this first example right here. To have a 75% chance to evade against a T16 map monster, you currently need 45,000 evasion rating to achieve this. You will only need 24,200 evasion rating after this change. So, pretty significant. Here's another problem. Evasion provides no defense against spells. Solution is to introduce spell suppression, sorry. Excuse me. On evasion items as well as the dexterity section of the passive skill tree, which gives a chance to halve spell damage taken. The chance can be stacked up to 100%. Convert existing sources of dodge and spell dodge to spell suppression or replace them with other bonuses. So spell suppression, just to reiterate right there, is a mod that's going to be a % chance to take half damage from spell damage, and you can stack that up to 100%. So effectively taking 50% less damage from spells, but you will no longer be able to dodge spells. I am fairly certain, they said they're removing attack dodge entirely, and then they're saying converting existing sources of dodge and spell dodge to spell suppression. So it seems like spell dodge as well. A dodge is just basically gone. There's not really that many specifics I'll talk about. It's kind of all mentioned here, but you can read through this if you want to. Alright, next problem. Due to armor and evasion not working effectively as primary defenses of previously, we've introduced a lot of mechanics over the years that either scale them too efficiently or scale off them too efficiently, or not well enough. The intention would be that the straightforward way of getting armor or evasion on your items is the best way to maximize its efficacy. So basically what they're trying to say here is stacking full evasion gear on your character is probably going to be the best way now. Stacking full armor gear on your character is probably going to be the best way, rather than, you know, stacking like 2 or 3 evasion items and then stacking like flat evasion everywhere and percent evasion everywhere and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So they're reviewing all the mechanics that scale off armor and evasion, and all mechanics to grant large values and increases to armor and evasion. So this is going to be really, really interesting here. This is what I was a little bit confused about in some regards. So say, for example, the Brass Dome unique is getting redesigned to more properly embrace its identity of a high armor body armor. This and Krasen's Carapace are also getting changed. They want to basically mean it's not the only choice for Juggernaut with the, I can't remember the actual, Unbreakable maybe, or the keystone that doubles the armor on your chest piece. They want to make it so like a high armor chest piece can do that as well. The Formless Flame and Formless Inferno now grant armor is increased by overcapped fire res, previously uncapped fire res. So there's some interesting kind of stacking builds that now just don't function as well. So say, for example, Replica Dream Feather or Dream Feather, in some regards aren't going to work as well anymore because of potentially not being able to hit as high armor or evasion through those sorts of stackings. We're not sure yet. This is completely me just kind of guessing or thinking here, so don't take this as gospel or anything like that. All right, here's a big one that I'm kind of a little bit annoyed about. So the first problem was that the veiled modifier that increases quality on equipment was required to maximize the energy shield from an item. This is a problem because you cannot pick up the best energy shield items off the ground. And the second problem was stacking the energy from not notable passive on cluster jewels was too efficient as a way to maximize your energy shield. So the solution was to replace the veiled modifier and lower the power of energy shield from not notable. Compensate all characters for the loss of maximum energy shield by increasing the strength of all energy shield base types. So this is really interesting. First of all, that's a plus. Energy shield base types going up, right? That's awesome. We had a massive nerf. I can't remember what league it was, but it was a long time ago. There was a massive nerf across the board to energy shield. This feels like it's going to be a little bit more of a pushback up, which is pretty cool. And there's more energy shield being added to the passive skill tree. So if there's any time to try energy shield, you didn't play kind of pre-nerf energy shield, now's the time to start thinking about it. I'm probably going to be really releasing some interesting stuff about energy shield. However, the thing that's really pissing me off about this is the veiled crafted modifier. So it provided quality and strength, dexterity, or intelligence. It no longer provides quality. Now, they're saying this is to keep the top end about the same while bringing the lower investment of energy shield up. Instead, it now grants up to 25% chance to avoid ignite, freeze, or shock, depending on the attribute, also providing another way for characters to solve their element problems. Now, so one big thing about linking is that quality increases linking chances. Now, you can still get your items to 30% quality, your rare items, but you're not able anymore to get your chest pieces or armor or anything like that, well, mainly chest pieces, up to 48%, which is like the highest chance that you'll have to link an item. This is just meaning that linking rare items is just going to take a little bit longer, unfortunately. And this was a really, really interesting thing that I liked about rare items over unique items, was the increased chance to obtain links. So basically, I'm not sure the exact, for those of you who are a little confused, the exact ratio or formula, but quality does increase the chances of linking. I think a 0% quality item is theorized to be 1,500 fusings. 20% quality is theorized to be 1,200 fusings. Like 48% is kind of more around the 1,950 mark type of thing. This is really, really weird. That this is happening, this veiled crafted modifier. It feels like they've forgotten that's even a mechanic. That being said, yeah, the energy from Naught Cluster Jewel now grants 60 max energy shield, previously 100. So massively nerfed, you're probably not taking this anymore. And added new passives that grant energy shield to various locations on the tree that didn't have energy shield passives. Alright, let's move on. Problem. With the desire to increase armor, evasion, and energy shield power across the board, we felt that the base values on items were too low. In addition, we feel that our item system needs more base type heterogeneity. Solution. Base types are now generated with a random 0 to 10% higher base defense as an inbuilt, currently non-modifiable property. This means that all base types can be better than they currently are, and armor base types are not homogeneous anymore. Energy shield values on base types instead vary from 0 to 20%. Now, I actually want to talk a little bit on this because what's happening right now is Path of Exile is sneakily introducing more and more and more randomization to the game. We saw it in part 1. The one thing that I wasn't impressed with in part 1 was adding all of the flask modifiers to the base pool of crafting a belt, meaning that, you know, there were just more chances of fucking that belt up or maybe getting a good belt type of thing. You know, there's just more in the pool, right? Yes, this is a buff right now. This is only a buff. It's not like it's going to be negative 10% to 10% higher base defense, like 10% lower to 10% higher base. It's basically 0% what we have now, and then we could get 10% more type of thing. But what is happening is it's introducing something more rather than just like, okay, so the best base to craft on is an astral plate. Now, the best base to craft on is an astral plate 10%, right? Which just adds another level of, another step in the market, I guess you could say, if you're playing softcore, or another step in the aspirational content. That Path of Exile I don't think needs in this regard in terms of gearing. We need to solve more gearing problems before we introduce more variations on gear and everything like that. To me, this is a weird step into more of the direction of just gambling and gambling. We know that by now. Path of Exile, that's what they're about. You know, they're about just, hey, you better drop the item in the right way that you want. Especially being non-modifiable. I said currently non-modifiable, so it might be modifiable in the future, who knows, but it's just more and more and more variation. If we've got this on top of, you know, trying to get tier 1 mods with 3 affixes in the prefixes, 3 affixes in the suffixes, the right colors, the right links, the right base type, you know, like, there's so much now, and this is like an extra level. Anyway, a little bit of a rant there, let's move on. Problem: Energy Shield is most often used with Leech and Regeneration, like life, rather than embracing its unique recharge mechanics. So the solution was to increase the base recovery rate of Energy Shield recharge, rework the downside of the Wicked Ward Keystone, and move improvements of Energy Shield recharge to the core modifier pool for Energy Shield gear away from specialized item mechanics. So they basically want to be like, hey guys, stop just taking Zealot's Oath or Life Reaver and just, you know, actually use the mechanic. Which I guess is cool. We'll have to see how that pans out. Alright, another problem. Builds wanting to invest in both Evasion and Energy Shield rely heavily on Ghost Dance, requiring them to be a Trickster. So the solution, basically give everyone access to Ghost Dance as a keystone passive. So, it's basically this, but the Trickster Ascendancy is being changed as it no longer grants Ghost Dance, which is really interesting. Trickster is maybe getting a little bit more flavor right here, which is pretty cool. Problem: builds wanting to invest in both Armor and Energy Shield have no mechanic that gives a synergy between the two. So the solution was to add a new Keystone passive skill and add more hybrid Armor Energy Shield passives to the Templar section of the passive skill tree. So the Keystone is called Divine Shield. Percentage of total physical damage prevented from hits recently is regenerated as Energy Shield per second, and you cannot recover Energy Shield to above Armor. So that's kind of interesting right there. Yeah, I think that's a pretty cool keystone right there. That's actually going to have some pretty interesting mechanics. That's going to be pretty busted with a Mana Guardian. I'm just thinking. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Alright, problem. Some of the areas of the passive skill tree, the Shadow area in particular, have no defense against and very little life regeneration to overcome damage over time effects. So the solution was to improve life regeneration modifiers on gear and add a new keystone between the Witch and Shadow area on the passive skill tree to heavily dampen the initial impact of damage over time. This is really interesting, actually. I really like this mechanic, so let's have a look. So greatly enhanced flat life regeneration modifiers on gear, blah blah blah, but the Lethet Shade, not Lethal Shade, in the Shadow area, take 75% less damage over time if you started taking damage over time in the past second. 100% more duration of ailments on you. Now, I don't think this is going to be a problem because of all of the changes to ailments, this downside. We're going to be able to get ailment immunity. I think this node is... this node, if you're in the area, you take this node now because, well, if you are, you know, ailment immune, then yes, you do. Yeah, it's really, really, really fucking strong. Anyway, let's move on. Problem. A few specific mechanics grant a lot of life regeneration, especially with endurance charge stacking, but for many other sources, life regeneration is not very powerful. So the solution, remove various sources of life regeneration per endurance charge or lower their values. Review effects that give life recovery rate and high values of life regeneration. Add new passives in the strength area of the tree that grant life regeneration and one source of increased life regeneration rate. Increased life regeneration rate is massive. That's going to be a very, very, very good note to take. Another problem. Shadow attackers don't have a form of life recovery that they excel at, while almost every other core character has a signature special recovery method. Well, yeah, almost. Solution, add new passive skill clusters in the shadow area of the passive skill tree, allowing investment into a combination of life on hit, life on kill, and life leech. Now, life on hit on the tree is a very dangerous game, GGG, but that sounds great to me. I like it. This also includes a source of maximum total life recovery per second from life leech in the shadow area of the passive skill tree. Problem, Witch and Shadow casters don't have an accessible form of life recovery. Solution, add new passive skill tree clusters to the area of the passive skill tree between Shadow and Witch, allowing investment in life on kill and recouping a portion of damage taken as life. Pretty good changes. More information on the passive skill tree changes will be coming later, which is nice. Alright, here's a big one that we kind of teased in the intro. Block is a pretty fundamental form of defense available to characters, seeing as it is available on shields, but the Gladiator Ascendancy is far more efficient for block investment compared to any other class. Well, not far more in terms of Necro and Ascendant, but yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. Because of the Gladiator's versatile combatant notable skill that grants as much spell block as you have attack block. So the solution is to give everyone access to a weaker version of Versatile Combatant as a keystone passive, and replace the Gladiator Ascendancy skill. Also improve how much block chance and spell block chance you can get from other sources. So that's kind of cool. Versatile Combatant is now a keystone passive on the passive skill tree. It grants plus 2% chance to block spell damage for each 1% overcapped chance to block attack damage. It also grants negative 25% to maximum chance to block attack and negative 25% to maximum chance to block spell. This means that if you have 75% chance to block attack damage, allocating the keystone passive gets you a 50% chance to block attack damage as well as 50% chance to block spell damage. So, and this is a keystone passive, so any class can take this, right? The Gladiators' block ascendancy passive skills have been reworked. They're experimenting with a new notable passive that makes a Gladiator's chance to block attack damage lucky, while helps offset the downside of Versatile Combatant. So that's kind of interesting right there. We'll see how that actually pans out. They're also making further changes to passive skills in the life granted by Bone Offering. Alright, problem. The pool of modifiers available on shields includes some that have values that are too low or aren't relevant to shields. The power level of shield modifiers in general is also too low. So the solution is to remove irrelevant modifiers from shields and add some really powerful ones. This is freaking crazy, what is happening right here. If they're removing more modifiers from shields, if they don't change shield skills, they are just going to be the meta. It's going to be, you're going to have Spectral Shield Throw number 1, Shield Crush number 2, Flat Shield Charge builds number 3. Anyway, alright. Problem. As a defense, Blind was equivalent to an incredibly high level of evasion with minimal character investment. It felt mandatory for all characters. So the solution was to make Blind synergize with evasion, so it's more powerful only if you've built a very evasive character. The power level of the new Blind is significantly lower than before, but has more opportunities for further investment if you want to specialize in it. So they're definitely going the route of, with everything right now, is specialization. So Fortify, you know, we'll talk about that very soon as well. Fortify, they don't want you to just take, but they want you to specialize. Blind, they don't want you to just take, but they want you to specialize. You know, specialization is very important, it seems like, moving it forward in Path of Exile. Alright, here's another problem. Because Flesh and Stone blinded nearby enemies, it was incredibly popular. The changes to Blind have reduced its power, so now the characters may be missing a low-cost defensive reservation effect. Solution, reduce the cost of Flesh and Stone, so probably going back to 25%, which is great for people who are only using it for damage, really, really good actually, and change Tempus Shield so it's similarly powerful defensive reservation effect, alongside Arctic Armor and Flesh and Stone. Tempus Shield is being reworked to become a 25% reservation effect that provides a large amount of spell block. Oh! Okay, I didn't read that before. That's actually really good. And immunity to shock. Still has the property of shooting out lightning on block, and the damage has been significantly buffed. Whoa! Damage significant. Okay, never mind. Tempus Shield's like really, really freaking good now, I think. Anyway, we'll have to see the actual values, but yeah, I'm pretty pumped about that. Problem. Fortify is intended as a defensive benefit for being a melee character, but can often be attained by spellcasters using a melee weapon type that don't engage in melee combat. So the solution was to change the Fortify mechanic so its effect is based on your melee damage. So basically what this is meaning is the scale, it scales off melee damage dealt. So if you're shield charging into a pack with 1000 damage on that shield charge, you might get 1% less damage taken. If you deal 20,000 damage, you know, maybe it's 5% less damage taken. If you deal 80k damage, maybe it's getting closer to your, you know, closer to the 20% less damage taken. That'll be really interesting to see right there. And yeah. The interesting thing right here is they're saying spellcasters and ranged characters won't have access to the mechanic without significant investment or being a champion. So they're not changing how the champion works. You're still going to be getting that full Fortify effect from champion, so you can still do like a bow character or something like that. Anyway, that is everything. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really, really do appreciate it. Let me know in the comments down below, once again, you know, what your favorite thing was, what your least favorite thing was. There's a lot to talk about here. There's a lot of great stuff to do with defenses, a lot of maybe questionable things, but I think that on reading this a third time, this is my third time reading through it. I read through it twice. Third time reading through, I'm kind of like, look, you know what? Let's not overreact whatsoever. This is actually looking pretty good for the most part. We'll just have to wait and see how a couple of other things work. Yeah, that's all I really have to say. Remember to hit that sub button, hit that like button, and come catch me on Twitch when I do start streaming again, because I am taking a hiatus at the moment. Thank you for watching, and until next time, Badger is out.